Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing really well. This NFL season is flying by. Hope all of you are doing excellent, enjoying your NFL football and getting ready for Thanksgiving coming up here in about a week and a half. We've got Shane here, as always, from the great Northeast. Austin here from a brand new location, which he may or may not talk about later. And I am here, Ben Parker, and you are here. So thank you all for being with us and watching. As always, we're going to get right into our lead story. So much to talk about. We won't cover it all, but we'll cover a bunch. Shane, what's your first thing off this week?
My lead story, I would say the Denver Broncos and Nick's having a field day. Over 85% completion, 4 touchdowns, just a dominant performance. A lot of screens in there, so a lot of short completions, which helped him keep that possession up there. But just a really well-played game for them. And I didn't have high hopes for the Broncos starting off this season, so was impressed with how they've played lately.
Yeah, see, I've got that on my board. I've got the smart Alex. Sean Payton remembers how to coach as if he ever forgot. Payton's just had a heck of a season. I mean, goodness gracious, he has done so well. But you're right about Nick's, because Nick, I mean, obviously there's lots of screens in here. Several of his touchdown passes were even off of screen plays. There's lots of yards after the catch, lots of running plays mixed in, etc. But you could see Nick's growing, not only in confidence, but he's got 4 or 5 big throws this past week where it's like, wow, that's an impressive throw. So you see him growing, as well as Sean Payton doing everything he can to help him
And the
out.
thing is, I mean, what's the real show of a great coach is letting your players do what they do best. And Nick showed in Oregon that he is great with being able to get those quick completions off and let your players make plays. That's what you're supposed to do. We talked about it time and time again. You look at the Saints. What are they doing with their offense? They don't have real quarterbacks, so you have Tyson Hill do everything. It's about maximizing your skilled players and having them do the most for you. And if that means short passes and letting Knicks, kind of make up plays as they go, then that's the way you go.
1,000%. I couldn't have said it better myself. The best coaches, they'll flex and give their guys. It's not just a saying, hey, we'll go and put our guys in the best position. Not all coaches do it, even though they all say it. Austin, lead story of the week.
Mine's going to be that 2023 top 5 quarterbacks who have been benched in the 2024 season and then regained their starting role are now 3-0 on the season. Twice is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern. Apparently, this is a new thing to me. Apparently, benching your young quarterback and then just throwing him back in the fire a few weeks later works. This is a brand new thing to me. I've been totally against this forever, but Bryce Young 2-0 since his return from being benched, and then Anthony Richardson beats the Jets this week with a pretty good performance. It wasn't like a John Taylor show or anything. He was responsible for 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 through the air, 20 of 30, and no interceptions. So yeah, I guess this is just the recipe now. Draft a guy, let him start for a year, bench him in year 2, and then put him back out there, and it's magic.
Totally agree. I mean, it's a new thing to me too, but here we are. I mean, these guys are doing it. I always like, whether they play well or not, I love to see the mental toughness of them just coming back and competing the following week. But Anthony did a whole lot more than compete. I mean, you mentioned it. He had a heck of a game there. So Colts got the huge win, and the Jets just continue to fall off here. I didn't give y'all a lead time on this, but Joe Douglas, of course, general manager, is out. Not a surprise there. I think we all knew either this Aaron Rodgers thing was going to work or everybody in the building was going to get fired, and everybody in the building is getting fired. So we'll see how long Aaron stays around. My big thing is going to be coming with the Packers hanging on, but more specifically, Caleb Williams. Is Thomas Davis? I'm getting the name mixed up. Is he the signal caller for the Bears now? Do I have the right name? It might not be Thomas Davis. Anyway, I'm sure somebody in the audience is screaming at me, but Caleb Williams looked better than he did the past 2 or 3, 4 weeks. But the new signal caller did exactly what you guys have already mentioned for a couple of other quarterbacks this week. And that is, he told Caleb Williams, don't hang on to the ball. Get rid of it. Whether it's an incomplete pass or just get rid of it. And so Caleb Williams did. I mean, consistently, 2.5 seconds, balls out. In some cases, 2.1 seconds, balls out. If you don't like what you got, run the ball. Caleb Williams did a lot of running the football. Just don't throw interceptions and just don't hang on to the football. So it was really beautiful. We didn't see Caleb Williams just make tons of big throws, and he didn't have a big statistical day. But getting the ball out quick, looking confident, looking fresh, giving yourself a chance, your team a chance, very different from what we saw to the Bears. And I apologize, I don't have the name right, but I'm sure somebody in the audience can post it to us later. All right, lead story number 2 for me this week. Here it is. And this is why these guys weren't on the big board. The new sheriff's in town. So if we were to dial the clock back, and this stuff changes every 2 or 3 weeks, every season we see it. If you dial the clock back 2 or 3 weeks ago, it would have been Ravens, Lions, and Chiefs as most people's, not everybody, most people's Super Bowl favorites. Lions still there, and maybe the Ravens Chiefs aren't going anywhere. But look, we saw some statements made this past Sunday from 3 teams who have kind of been lurking, kind of been working on getting better. The Eagles with the huge win over the Commanders. And the Eagles have been on a steamroll the past 6-7 weeks, getting better across the board analytically. Pittsburgh, who's been basically good all year, scratches their way past the Ravens. And the Ravens are the ones now looking at a wild card spot while the Steelers have this division in control until further notice. And then the Buffalo Bills. We all know they can win a regular season game against Kansas City, so we got to see it in the playoffs. But here they are, man, in a season in which a lot of people thought they might take a step back. Boom, they're just right here knocking on the door. They've got this division on lockdown. So for now, for the next couple of weeks, these are the new sheriffs in town: Sirianni, Tomlin, and the Buffalo Bills. Man, I mean, they're at least posing a threat to these other 3 Super Bowl teams. And so it made it a lot more interesting moving forward, even if none of these 3 teams actually makes it to the Super Bowl. They're at least showing that they can give us all something to think about. All right, Shane, your next lead story, man.
Well, you kind of hit 1/3 of my next lead story, and that's New York teams. So the Bills pull out the victory against the Chiefs. Thought they played well. Again, though, that's Josh Allen against the world. That's still going to be Buffalo's play style, and he's going to come up when you need him to. For the other 2 New York teams, the Jets, as you mentioned, Joe Douglas gets let go today. That team is just a shell of itself. You knew kind of once things started to go bad, it was going to get real bad for the Jets. And then for the Giants, the Daniel Jones era comes to an end. They put him down, and then instead of putting your second string quarterback in, you go right to your third string and Tommy DeVito. I'm sure that's going to get some more people to buy chicken parm sandwiches and stuff like that around the bodegas. But, I mean, what does it tell you about your backup quarterback if you go right to the third stringer? People have already started to, flood the internet about being able to help you fall asleep to your Thanksgiving dinner with Tommy DeVito versus Cooper Rush in a primetime game. So, like I said, I think New York teams are on a slide. And I mean, Brian Dable might be the last one to get chopped, and then that will restart a whole New York, new GMs, new coaches, new everything.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The Thanksgiving Day slate is a lot less exciting than it might have looked at the start of the season. I'll be watching anyway, but it's not going to be for watching winning teams reasons. Austin, what you got next?
I'm going to talk about the Offensive Rookie of the Year voting. If you guys, I mean, this is open to you guys. If you guys had a vote right now, the season ended after last week, who's your Offensive Rookie of the Year? Is it, because obviously it was Jaden Daniels running away with it, but he's fallen back to earth heavily. Has someone possibly taken it over?
It's possible. I'd still vote for Jaden Daniels because looking at earlier seasons' work, but there are people catching up for sure.
Right. So I wanted to go over the current odds on just a sports book, an unnamed sports book, no sponsors here. Jaden Daniels is still currently the favorite, with Bo Nix actually pretty close behind for second place. And then it gets interesting. Drake May third, Brock Bowers fourth. And Brock Bowers is absolutely making a case. He has had an incredible season. Caleb Williams somehow still fifth. I think he's out of it. He would have to go absolutely nuclear the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors has looked good, but he had that concussion injury. He's missed a little bit. Brian Thomas Jr. has had an incredible season. The Jaguars have been a little underwhelming, and with Trevor Lawrence being down, I think that's probably ruined his odds. But the sneaky two here I want to talk about are Tyrone Tracy, the running back for the Giants, and Ladd McConkey, who looked really good this week. Ladd looks polished, which is again why I had him as a first round graded receiver. He is polished. He is sneaky athletic, as all white wide receivers are, and he's a stud. I really like Ladd. So I genuinely have no idea who's going to win this. I would not put money on Jaden Daniels, even though he's the favorite right now. Drake Mays looked really good. And there's a few skill position players that could step in and make a real case for themselves.
What 4 weeks ago may have been rookie of the century with Jaden Daniels has now gotten to be back close again. There's no question about it. It's going to take the rest of the season really to figure out who's going to win that. I mean, listen, that whole group's a fun group, man. Can you imagine just getting them all together for one team and being like, hey, we'll run y'all for the next 5 years and see what we can do? But my personal favorite is Brock Bowers. I mean, not to win the award necessarily, but just watching this guy, I got to watch him for 2 or 3 years in college at Georgia. And to get to see this guy be the real deal here on a bad football team, it's hard to do that, man. He still looks amazing. I absolutely love watching all of these guys, with especially Bowers there.
Well, and like Austin mentioned, 2 of those guys were on the same team, just like you mentioned, Georgia, Ladd McConkey and Bowers. I mean, I don't know how you defensively decided how to cover those guys, especially with the slew of running backs that have gone through Georgia. I really like Austin said, I think those are the 2 key ones. McConkey gets a little bit of help because their team has done well. But when you look at those guys like Brian Thomas and with Brock Bowers, when your team's doing terrible and you're still pulling through as a rookie, that shows that you belong in the NFL.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great point that, hey, I'm a real player here, no matter what my screwy team is doing. I love it. Let's move on to our all-important third championship, which is winding down. And 2 of us are not doing good, and 1 of us is just doing okay. But the okay one is Shane, and he's winning, even though his flock shrunk this past week. He's got 82 points, 8 goats, and 2 stacks of cheeses over here. Austin mentioned this last week. He said he hoped that we came back to him. And we're halfway there, Shane.
Justin Tucker killed me.
I know it, man. Goodness gracious. Austin's here with 8 cheeses, and I've got 4 goats and 3 cheeses. We'll get to our bets here in just a few minutes. But the matchup of the week is your 7-3 Chargers. I generally, listen, this is who I am. Austin could probably relate due to what we've talked about in baseball. I try to avoid the media game of the week because that's usually just about the big-name quarterbacks or the gaudy records. But I couldn't resist this one. This is the media game of the week for obvious Harbaugh reasons. But just to me, the matchup itself is fantastic. You've got styles, physicality. I love it here. So you've got the 7-3 Chargers at home. This will be on Monday Night Football against the 7-4 Ravens, who, man, 2 or 3 weeks ago were like the power to be, and now they're not quite that. So let me run through the statistics real quick, and then we'll hear from our guys about what may actually happen in the game. Offensive EPA. Ravens are first. No surprise there. Chargers are 15th. Points per game. Ravens are second. No surprise there. Chargers are 19th. In actual just raw yardage per game, Ravens are first. Again, no surprise, while the Chargers are 18. In passing yards per game, the Ravens still holding at third. Chargers at 19. And in rushing yards per game, just the raw yardage there, the Ravens are second, of course, with Henry, and the Chargers come in at 12. Moving to the defensive side of the football, defensive EPA, the Ravens are at 26th. The Chargers are at number 2. No major surprise there. Points per game allowed, the Ravens are at 23rd, while the Chargers check in at first. Yards per game allowed, the Ravens are at 26th, while the Chargers are at 11th. Passing yards allowed per attempt, just a little bit different metric there. Ravens at 28th, Chargers at 6th, and then rushing yards allowed per carry. We talked about this stat last week, but the Ravens still at first in that, and the Chargers at 24th. Shane, tell us what's going to happen on Monday night, man.
Well, I mean, I've been on this bandwagon the whole year, so I am still picking the Chargers to pull off a victory here. Big fan of both the Harbaughs, but I think with Jim, I think he and Dan Campbell are the two coaches where those teams have completely bought in. They take on their personality. You see the locker room celebrations, especially for the Chargers. Like, they are fully bought into every Harbaughism there is. You know, who's got it better than us? They all cheer, they slap high fives like they're in middle school. And they have changed the way they play football. Defensively, they've played great this year. I don't think they've even gotten the credit that they deserve for how much of a turnaround that's happened for them. And offensively, they've gone back to a power run game. It makes Justin Herbert even more dangerous because he's a huge quarterback. He can run, he can throw. Austin already mentioned, one of my favorite picks as well was Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnson, who was, everyone's worst pick last year, is now more than a serviceable wide receiver in the NFL. And their offensive line, young and has played really, really well. So I think the Chargers have the edge on this one above the Ravens.
Austin.
This was going to be a good game. I wish this was played on Thanksgiving. I mean, it's like right there. Like the two brothers should play on Thanksgiving, I think. Or whatever. Next year, make it happen, Roger. I'm going to take the Ravens in this. I think the Steelers' loss was a fluky one. The Ravens were, as someone who watched the game, the Ravens were absolutely the better team, and I don't know if you can argue that. A fumble by Derrick Henry, who never fumbles, and 2 missed field goals, and the Steelers narrowly won that. The Ravens are a very good football team. They're better than the Chargers. Now,
yes, they are. Shoot.
Yeah, I don't know if I would take a whole bunch of points in this, but straight up, I do have the Ravens winning.
For me, this is a tight one, really, really tight. I've gone back and forth over who to pick, and I may even change it come Saturday night when we do our network show. Right now, I'm picking the Chargers by the hair. The only reason for that is this Ravens defense is bad. It is not a good defense. I have watched it several games this year, like every snap, and it's just not a good defense, and that bothers me. That's a large reason for the inconsistency, not the only reason, but a large reason. And so I've got the Chargers here at home. They've got the momentum. If the Ravens defense was up, say, at 18 overall in any category or kind of across the board, I'd like them. But that defense continues to be bad. They haven't shown signs of getting better either, and that's always a problem. That always ticks me off when a team just isn't getting any better. So give me the Chargers in what I agree will be a really tight game, and I do like the under, Austin. I think this is a very, very tight game. Could come down to another field goal again. Shane, what you betting on tonight?
I'm going to go conservative. I think we've all agreed that it should be a good game and a tight, low-scoring game. So I'm going to go with a single goat for the Chargers straight up.
One goat on the Chargers to win. Conservative approach. Austin, you got 8 cheeses here. You going to do anything with them?
Yeah, I played the slow game last week. I narrowed the margin that I need to make up, and now it's time to step on the gas. I'm going to go all 8 cheeses on the Ravens to win.
8 cheeses on the Ravens to win. I'm going to keep it simple here, too. I'm going to go with Chargers to win. I'll put 2 goats on it because I do need to catch Shane. I'm just going to run out of time here if I don't. So, matter of fact, I'm going to put 3 goats on that. So, just so I can at least get a chance here to catch Shane. That's it. We all picked winners and losers this week, so we'll find out next week. Be the last week of our championship right before Thanksgiving. We were doing something really special this week. I asked both guys to kind of work in an area that I know they excel at, and we're going to hand out some awards here to 4 teams and then 4 more teams. So I asked Shane, first of all, to pick out his 4 best or 4 favorite offensive lines in the football. So we're going to pretend that everybody's healthy, and maybe it's, just looking at talent and who we like, maybe projecting ahead a season and a half, maybe looking back to where we thought everybody was at the start of this season. It's not objective, it's subjective. But Shane's going to give us his 4 best offensive lines, and then Austin is going to give us his 4 best skill groups at this point. Not based necessarily on how they've played the first 8, 9, 10 weeks of the season, but just overall big picture, how we like them. I've got first place ribbons, second place ribbons, third place ribbons, and for honorable mentions, those 4th placers, I've got Will Ferrell's to hand out. Okay, so that's going to be our awards for the night. 4 teams each are going to get it. Shane, start us off with your best or favorite offensive lineman.
Okay, I would say these are definitely personal picks, but I would fight against the numbers and say that most people would put this group of 4 pretty close in their top 10 as well. So for me, I think the top offensive line right now is the Detroit Lions. I think when you have the best offensive lineman, Penny Sewell right now is in that top echelon without a doubt. I think the offense that Ben Johnson does helps their offensive line. Quick throws, lots of run game, all makes your offensive line look better. For number 2, they've been kind of maligned this season, but I think for the interior offensive line, they're one of the better ones, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. Creed Humphreys, they've had some injuries on the guards, which haven't always made it great for them, but continue to win and score points to show for your offensive line. One of my favorites is for number 3, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Jeff Stoutland is the premier offensive line coach in the NFL. He's done an amazing job of being able to fill people in. People worried, was Cam Jurgens going to be able to fill that role for Jason Kelce? He has not been the weak spot for the offensive line. They just got Jordan Mailata back, which allowed them to get even bigger on the offensive line. And Saquon Barkley is happy to be running against the power offensive line. I think they've done well. And the number 4 for the old school Will Ferrell, I went with the formerly San Diego, now just LA Chargers. But I think they have 2 young tackles. Slater played well last year and is coming into his own. I think Alt has played great for a beginner in his first year, and they run the ball. Part of that has to be you have to build that concept with your offensive line, but you have to call plays that help them. If you're going to have an offensive line that's big and built to run the ball, and then you don't run the ball and you're surprised when you give up a ton of sacks, i.e. Chicago, when you build an offensive line to do something and then the quarterback holds the ball for 4 seconds, it's hard for any offensive line. But I think those are my top 4. I had to think about this for another segment on another podcast months ago for the beginning of the year, and I haven't really changed much. The Chiefs moved up a spot for me, though.
No, I love it, man. Especially the give us the name of the offensive line coach again there in Philadelphia. Most people probably don't know his name. Jeff
Stoutland, and he's one that like Jordan Mailata was a rugby player in Australia, and he has taken players that have not been high draft picks and turned them into an excellent offensive line. Philadelphia's had a good offensive line for a good couple of years. And I think he does a great job of getting those guys prepared. Do they get beat? Yes, but foundationally, and when you're looking for play style, those guys normally rate out very high.
See, I think that's such a huge thing there. You mentioned it. Well, I won't, man, me and Chen could go on this. Offensive line coaches matter a lot because you can draft all the talent you want, and teams should draft talent for offensive line, not just bring in scrubs. But unless you've got a guy coaching them up and making them cohesive as a unit and developing them individually with their technique, it's not going to matter. And then again, offensive scheme, if you're not going to run the plays that benefit that offensive line, again, you're just working against the talent that you brought in. So 100% agree. The Chargers, I love their offensive line band. That's a perfect example of Harbaugh knowing what he wants to do and then having the talent to do with it. They're going to be deadly for the next few years. And then you're right about the Chiefs. The Chiefs tackles, it may hurt them in the playoffs, but nobody in the league knows better how to handle a bad tackle situation than the Chiefs. They do it brilliantly. So come playoff time, they'll know every trick in the book to try to limit how much their tackles are hurting their offense, even though it does limit the offense. So, Shane, I love the list, man. Those are 4 teams that I didn't do a list. Those 4 teams will be right up there in the top 5 or 6 for me. No question about it. Austin, lay it on us, man. Give us your 4 skill groups.
Yeah, I was having a little trouble with this one, just because there's so many different reference points you can look at it from. I'm someone who loves wide receivers. That's like my passion. So I kind of started thinking too much about that. And then I was like, no, the running back's obviously super important. And then you can't forget the tight end. So the reference point I took for this is I'm Deion Sanders and my son Shador is about to get drafted to go play. And if he could just transport, again, not regarding the O-line, just the skill positions. If I'm Deion and I could wish Shador have any skill position players when he reaches the NFL, what would set him up best for success? That's the lens I looked at this through. And first is a team that has a great O-line, and that's the Eagles. I cannot sing high enough praise about A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley. I mean, those two are at the very tip top of their position groups. A.J. Brown, probably the 3rd to 5th best receiver in the league, and Saquon Barkley is running like a top 3 running back again. And to have someone who's so dominant at both of those is so important. And then, I mean, Devontae Smith is a wide receiver 1 in his own right. You know, if A.J. Brown wasn't there, he would be an absolutely capable wide receiver 1 on this team. To have him as number 2 is great. Plus some good secondary options at the receiver position. And I'm a Dallas Goedert fan too. I think he's all right. Moving on to second place, I'm going to go. This is a little controversial, maybe, who I have them over, but I'm going to go the 49ers. And we talked about how this is assuming health, but what I didn't want to assume was long-term injuries like what Christian McCaffrey's dealing with. That is not a torn ACL or a broken wrist or something that's going to heal and be good in a year, maybe 2 years for sure. McCaffrey's dealing with something much more long-term and could affect him for the rest of his career and will affect him for the rest of his career. So I think that ticks them a bit down. But I love Brandon Ayuk. I'm not the biggest Debo fan from a receiver perspective, but what he can do in all facets of the game is extremely important. And then I'm a big George Kittle fan. So overall, that's a great situation for any young quarterback to step into. Third, I'm going to go the Lions. And the reason they're so high up is because they're dual running back threats. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are both fantastic. I don't care who you're handing them off to. You're going to have success just handing the ball off. And if you have a young quarterback, being able to confidently hand the ball off to no matter who's standing behind you has got to be the best feeling in the world. And then when you are asked to throw, I'm not the biggest Jameson Williams fan at this point in his career, but he's deadly on a crossing route. So that's nice when you can just hit him on a crosser 12 to 20 yards downfield and he'll just do the rest. Amon-Ra St. Brown's fantastic in all facets, especially when you talk about him in the slot. And then the big breakout tight end for them, Sam Laporta last year, is awesome too. And then last, this is a tough one. I really wanted to squeeze my Vikings in here, but I couldn't because Nico Collins, the breakout of Nico Collins has got the Texans for the number 4 spot for me. Also, you have to talk about Joe Mixon, just absolutely turning it up for them this year. So Joe Mixon's awesome. Nico Collins playing right there, honestly, at that A.J. Brown level nearly. Like it is incredible what the talent he has and what he's become over the last 2 years. He's developed so much. And then you got Stephon Diggs there as your wide receiver too. It's a very similar situation to the Eagles, but just a tick down. And then I actually like their tertiary options more with Tank Dell. I think he is much better than Jahan Dotson or Johnny Wilson, whoever you talk about as your third guy. And then Dalton Kincaid and Dallas Goedert are kind of a toss-up to me. But those are my big 4.
So I'm not surprised you came out of left field with the Shador Sanders angle.
Yeah.
But that's an angle that makes a lot of sense, even if he doesn't end up with one of these teams, right? But that's an angle because you know that him and Dion are sitting down and talking about, or they will be come the end of the season. They'll be talking about where they want, excuse me, where they want to go. So that is the perfect angle to look at it from. The Lions and the Eagles here, the big winners here. Both of them got a first and a third out of y'all here for offensive lines and for skill groups. We may even see those two teams in the NFC title game. Who knows? So both teams cruising right now through the NFC. All right, we will do this again in about 2 weeks, probably from the defensive side of the football. I'll probably have Shane work on the defensive line, and I'll probably have Austin do a little bit of defensive backs things, but we'll probably do that maybe after Thanksgiving, about 2 weeks. So I love this. This will definitely show back up. Thank you very much. Time for our scramble drill. So this week's guessing game for Shane and Austin, and I'll let y'all work together on this, okay? Where turnovers is the topic this week, okay? So a team's interceptions and fumbles put together. This has nothing to do with turnover differential, nothing to do with how many turnovers they get as a defense. This is strictly on offense. How many interceptions you throw, plus how many times you actually fumble the ball and lose the fumble, sandwich them together. The helmets are all screwed up, all right? They're all mixed up. We need to put them in the right order. Again, I'm more concerned with the three best, the three worst, and then the three that are somewhere in the middle. Have at it, guys.
Okay, the Colts have to be up front, right? Like somewhere.
And Dallas.
And Dallas probably needs to be up there. And then the third spot could be the Chiefs. The Chiefs, I mean, Mahomes throwing a lot of picks.
Chiefs, the Raiders have been terrible as a quarterback system. So
yeah, but I don't think I think it's more just the inability to score rather than turning the ball over a ton with them.
I would be okay with the Chiefs being in that grouping.
I think it's sneaky because I think you want to go Chiefs or you want to go Raiders or Patriots, but
I think that or Texans because Stroud has had a tougher year too. They've had some turnovers on that too.
I think I like the Chiefs up top more than the Texans.
Okay, I'm good with that.
I like Colts, Dallas. Okay, what order do you want those?
Real quick, while you are thinking, I should tell you the numbers are hard to see, but the teams with the most turnovers have 20 and 18 each, while the teams with the fewest have like 5 and 7 each.
I think Dallas is probably the worst.
Okay, well, there's two tied, so Dallas and Indy.
Yeah,
Dallas and Indy, and then KC with 18 there. All right, well, the thing about the lowest, the low ends, the Commanders are pretty low. Jaden Daniels is taking really good care of the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would assume. I mean, the Chargers are playing that style of ball. You know, just don't turn the ball over, run it down their throats. I think the Chargers would be probably down there.
I think the Pats probably are down in the turnover too because Jacoby Brissett just didn't complete the ball to anybody, and then Drake May hasn't had a ton of turnovers either. He has had a lot of fumbles. Yeah.
Ramondre is what scares me because I think Jacoby probably threw 3 picks, 4 picks. May's thrown 4 or 5, and then Ramondre's had 4 or 5 fumbles. I think that gets them in that middle range.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in that, like you said, 4 or 5 middle group.
Yeah. So Chargers, Commanders, and then the Bills at the bottom. I guess the Bills have held on to the ball pretty well, I guess, this year.
I would be solid with that.
And then Patriots, Texans, Raiders. Ooh, God, that seems gross.
This is a tough one.
This is probably the hardest one we've had so far. What order do you like the rest going in?
I think, like you said, I think Washington probably has the least turnovers.
So one of the 5 teams there, the teams at 5 turnovers. There's 2 there.
Yeah.
Them and the Chargers probably the bottom 2.
I think so. And then Bills are probably the 3rd.
Yeah.
And then I'm like you said, I think our middle 3 are probably right. They might not be in that order. But yeah, this is a tough one.
Yeah, let's just roll with this.
Okay, this is tough. I tried to go for a little bit simpler than last week because I had statistics all over the place last week, right?
Mhm.
But this is harder, no doubt. But and in full disclosure to the audience, I don't tell these guys what's coming. They have no clue every week. Literally, when the audience finds out what we're doing, that's when Shane and Austin find out what we're doing. So they've been really doing good with no notice on this thing. So right now we've got the Cowboys, Colts, and Chiefs, just the most turnovers in the league. Texans, Patriots, Raiders as that middle tier, and then Bills, Commanders, Chargers as giving out the most turnovers. Any changes y'all want to make before we reveal it to everybody?
I don't feel confident at all, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to waste any more time on not feeling confident.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and I'll move this bar out of the way. The writing is small, so I apologize. Let's go ahead and do a little reveal. So on this end right here, Chargers and Commanders, perfect. Y'all got that great. I mean, just absolutely stole it. Fantastic job on that. And then even the Bills right here, you got that totally right. Okay, so 100% on the three lowest, absolutely killed it. These two teams here, you did great. I'm gonna put the Raiders aside for a second. The Texans come in here at 11, so you got them as part of the middle tier. So excellent work there. And then the Patriots, you got them right exactly where they needed to be. So that's basically what, 5 teams there that you got almost dead on. Perfect. So beautiful there. The Cowboys are one of the 2 teams tied with the most turnovers in the league. So that's a 6th team that you got absolutely perfect. And little bit of adjustment here with these 3 teams. So the Colts actually are with 18, so you didn't miss that by much. They're just 2 turnovers behind these 2 teams here. Chiefs not turning over the ball quite that much, but still at 14, they're not doing too good on turnovers for a team that's got Super Bowl aspirations. And then probably the biggest miss would just be here on the Raiders. They have got 20 turnovers as well here, tied for this league lead with the Cowboys. So, guys, any final thoughts here on the turnover thing? Y'all did really good, I think.
Should have gone with my Raiders hatred.
Yeah. That was my bad. I made the executive decision and not put the Raiders. I don't watch a whole lot of Raiders football, but anytime I tune into them, it feels like it's a punt. So
Yeah,
I was just like, I don't see
well,
them.
when you said that, like 3 and out is what rings in my head too. Like I feel like I'm impressed that we did as well as we did, because
Yeah.
I would have not have had that much faith in other than the Chargers and the Commanders for what we had. So yeah, like I said, that was definitely the toughest one.
Yeah.
It was, but y'all did great on that. Y'all did as good on that as y'all have done on anyone this year. I mean, that's what, basically 8 out of 9 you got here, depending on how we score it. That's excellent work, guys. Our show is just about done for the night. We're going to go over our final 60. I'll show you our network here that we're a part of, kind of affiliated with. Shane, give us your final 60 seconds.
My final 60 goes to college football. Notre Dame and Army are facing off this weekend. Army has, for the first time ever, they're going to win a conference, the AAC. They already have it destined that they're going to play Tulane in that championship. They still have the Navy game after this, but I think it will be a great game between Notre Dame and Army. Army's going to control the ball, and Notre Dame has kind of lit a fire offensively over the last couple of weeks. So I love these late November football games, and I think it will be a great showing for both teams.
I love them too. Army's always got a chance to win in these games. I just want Army to not get blown out, though, because almost every time we see these games, it's Notre Dame with a win, right? We saw it earlier in the year with Navy. I just want Army to keep this thing close and maybe, just maybe, pull it out there. You mentioned off show, Shane, that the matchup is a tough one for anybody, and Notre Dame really would not want to be playing this kind of a style team this late in the season with so much on the line. It's a fun matchup. Austin, your final 60.
My final 60 goes to moving during the fall. Both of my both of my last 2 moves have been in late October into early November. And it is the perfect time to move. You don't get too sweaty. It's not too cold, because I've helped other people move all sorts of times of the year. I've helped them in the middle of the winter where it's freezing cold and you can't feel your hands while carrying things. I've moved in the middle of July when you're drenched in sweat the whole time, dripping on the couch that you're carrying. If you're if you have the ability to schedule your leases to end in October, November, do it. It is totally worth it. It is so much nicer getting to move in the fall.
See, I actually love that. I didn't really expect you to say that, but I love that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All the times I've helped move or moved, it's been hot, just hot. I don't think I've ever done it in the cold. Always hot. So, my final 60. You see our network here, several shows, including Austin's Tricky Takes. This is kind of the Friends of the Family bit of a podcast. This is called the In the Flat Football College Football Podcast. They're not technically affiliated with us, but I used to be a part of this podcast. I had to go because of schedule and family type stuff. It just wasn't working out for me. But the show has actually gotten better over the past year. They've added in new segments. You can catch Tony, Jess, and Jordan. They do a good job with it. They'll go through a bunch of the games that happened and a bunch of games that will happen. And then they have several kind of rapid fire segments there at the end. So check them out, Apple and Spotify. It's the In the Flat College Football Podcast. They do a good job over there as well. Any final thoughts, y'all, before we shut it down for the night?
No, it was a good show.
We're done. Everybody, thank you for listening. Austin and Shane, thank you for all the extra production. Have a great one. Goodbye, everybody.